So thank you very much for joining us this evening. This is part of a new initiative we've been launching this summer here at Berks and Bucks, which is trying to provide induction sessions for new club volunteers joining us this season. The session will be recorded, as I said before, and will be uploaded onto our website so that those who aren't able to join us this evening will be able to do so. The induction sessions form part of an initiative we launched around this time last year, just ahead of the 1920 season, called BBFA Support. And it's a series, during the season at least, of monthly webinars where we take a look at different aspects around club administration and club management and delve into them in a bit more detail to try and provide support to clubs just understand the ropes when it comes to running a grassroots football club. There's only a limited number of us on this evening, which is fantastic because it means that there's an opportunity. If you wanted to contribute at any stage, you're more than welcome to do so. Please feel free to unmute yourself if you do want to ask a question, or if you prefer, you're welcome to put it in the chat function, or you should see on that little toolbar that kind of comes up if you tap the screen or hover over the screen, there's a little raised hand function, so you're welcome to do that. So my name's Alistair Kay. I am the Football Services Manager here at Berks and Bucks. Football Services Department, effectively, we're here to help out with the administration and the governance of the game. So during the season, our role very much falls around making sure that football's being played in a safe environment for everybody taking part, and that volunteers are supported through all of the myriad of things that comes up throughout the football season. So that will cover anything from just helping out with club administration to processing and investigating disciplinary and misconduct incidents, and then also responsibility for the safeguarding side of the game. When it comes to the off-season like this, we're very much focused around the administration, getting everything geared up for restart of football, particularly this summer. So we take the lead when it comes to affiliations, player registrations, and league sanctioning and so forth. That's kind of why we are looking to lead on these when it comes to, as I said, volunteer support and making sure that we're training up new volunteers stepping into the roles. Very pleased to be joined again by Gary Reeves, who is one of our more experienced club secretaries at Burnham FC. Burnham's first team play in the Hellenic League at step 5 of the National League system, but the club do also have under 18 and under 23 teams, as well as a veterans team. And Gary himself is also secretary of the East Berks Football League, so comes with a wealth of experience and different roles and backgrounds within football. Gary, is there anything else you wanted to say, just as by way of introduction for yourself?
Just say hello to everyone. Obviously, I'm a few minutes late getting on tonight, but I apologise for that. But yeah, I'll be here to obviously assist Alistair in going through what he's put together. And by all means, if you need to ask me a question, then please do so.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thanks again for joining us, Gary. It's appreciated. So plan over the next 45 minutes or so, though we're looking to cover, it's very much just around what the role of a club secretary entails. So kind of broken it into 3 sections, looking at the responsibilities within the club, then the key relationship that you'll have with the league or leagues that your teams are taking part in, and then the relationship with the county FA. I'm then also going to jump onto the whole game system, which is the system we use for administering grassroots football. Hopefully you'll have had a bit of experience with whole game system already through the affiliation process, if nothing else. But I'm going to take a look just around the kind of the information that's at your fingertips through the whole game system if you want to use it. And then at the end, there's an opportunity for a question and answer session. But as I said, if you do want to ask a question at any stage this evening, please feel free to put it in the chat, raise the hand, or just shout out. So, the role of a club secretary in a nutshell. So, to us and to the county FA, the club secretary effectively is the primary administrator and the main point of contact for people both within and outside the club on just about every aspect of the club's activities. What that means is that as club secretary, you need to be involved and be aware pretty much of all aspects of the club's operations and really responsible and take on that responsibility for building strong relationships with everybody inside the club and external stakeholders. Effectively, you kind of need to know the club inside and out and everything that's going on. And hopefully over the, like I said, over the next 30 minutes or so, we'll kind of touch on what aspects in particular you need to be focusing on and aware of. So that role within the club, I'm going to start off just around the sort of administrative responsibilities of a club secretary. Ultimately, as the secretary, you are the primary administrator for the club, so you are the one that will be picking up, unfortunately, a lot of the administrative processes. So from a club administration point of view, that starts first and foremost really with being responsible for your membership records, keeping track of who is a member of the club and in what capacity, whether it is as a parent of a player themselves, a coach, team manager, physio, and so forth. It's your responsibility to maintain and keep that membership record up to date. You'd then probably be responsible for organising the annual general meeting and any other management committee meetings throughout the season, taking minutes and coordinating actions. Think of it almost like a committee secretary or a company secretary role if you're involved in that kind of an organisation. Within that then come specific administrative challenges or tasks throughout the course of the football season. Starting off particularly around this time of year, around the annual county FA and league affiliation and registration processes. Throughout the season as well, then you'll also be responsible for player registration and transfers, processing disciplinary actions, and keeping the whole game system up to date with any changes that may happen throughout the course of the season. Now, particularly when it comes to player registrations and disciplinary procedures, there are quite a lot of additional regulations surrounding each of these aspects. So what we've done at the county is we've put together a series of reference sheets which are available on our website, which hopefully cover pretty much all of these kinds of different regulations and break them down into slightly more digestible real world language. They come from the FA handbook, which is a 600-page Bible effectively of that governs football right from the Premier League down to Sunday Park League football. And it is written very much in that kind of technical legalese. So we've taken some of those key aspects, broken them down and produced these reference guides. Playing into that are also those monthly BBFA support sessions I've spoken about, where we'll take one of those topics and go into it in a lot more detail. And those really are geared towards club secretaries who may be new to the role and wanting a bit more information around those. Now, I just want to highlight as well, given the time of year, that those county FA affiliation and league registration process are two separate aspects. Both are required, both depend on each other, but both are separate from each other, if that makes sense. And therefore, both will have separate fees and separate requirements and separate administrative processes you would have to go through. Best advice on any of that would be making sure you have that regular line of communication open with both the county and the league so that you're aware of what your responsibilities and requirements are for each of those. And I'll touch on that in a little bit more detail later. Now, I appreciate you maybe looking at that list and thinking that is quite a lot of admin to have to stay on top of, particularly at different times of the years, and particularly depending on the size of the club. So depending on how big you are, as a club, some of those responsibilities may well get delegated to others, and a lot of the larger clubs in particular will go down the route of having age group coordinators to help out around some of the league registration processes and player registration, or they may have dedicated registration officers within the club. However, as that chief administrator, for want of a better term, as the club secretary, you are still responsible for managing those processes and making sure that what may get completed by somebody else on the club's behalf is still correct and is still accurate. You may also end up picking up some match day responsibilities as the club secretary, particularly for those smaller clubs. And I'll come on to those in a lot more detail later on. And that's something where actually Gary's helping us at the moment produce a useful guide around what those responsibilities are on a weekly basis ahead of fixtures. Before I jump onto the communication side, and just while finishing off the administration, I can't see any questions that have been put in the chat or any hands raised. But if anybody wanted to ask a question, please feel free to jump in now, or I'll just go over to Gary quickly and just ask if there's anything I may have missed or anything you kind of want to particularly highlight as a key responsibility within that administration process.
Yeah, hello everyone again. Yeah, was that a question then, was it?
Well, it's just if there's anything else you want, you felt you needed to kind of highlight, or
add a couple of things. I think you covered there the role very well, actually. It does come vast, and I suppose people that are looking at this tonight thinking, "Cool, there's a lot to do there." But when you break it down into sections, and it's not too bad. It's how you see yourself and how you sort of plan your days or plan your weekends is quite straightforward. You may be lucky enough to have an assistant secretary at clubs, but as most clubs, we sort of only have a couple of volunteers. So, but in terms of the role, there's a lot of stuff there. But the main key words really is communication with your club members, with your chairman, with your directors, with your players, with your teams, your coaches, and obviously the county FA is very important. Communication is a key word in all of this, really.
No, that's perfect. So that's queued me up perfectly for that one, Gary. Cheers, because that's kind of what we're going to come on to now and just look into in a bit more detail, both within within the county and within the league. So, as I said, in terms of communication, then almost within the club secretary is likely then to be that first point of contact for any external queries coming in. It will generally be your contact details, which will get either put onto club website, league website, or that's listed with the county FA for any queries. So therefore, you'll be that first point of contact for anybody coming to you around potential membership queries. If you've got someone that's perhaps just moved to the area and is looking to join a football club. If there's another team in the local area that's looking to register one of your players and wants to complete a transfer. When we come to you for general, or we want to go to the club for general information and provide updates, we'll always go to that league secretary. And then again, for any notices from the league. As the club secretary, you will end up being that that conduit, because not only do you have to complete all, or will you receive all of the external communication in, the key thing is then that you'll be responsible for disseminating that information back out to whoever needs to look after it within the club. So again, just looking at some of those things, you've got discipline notices, so that if at the county FA we get report that a player's picked up a suspension or a yellow card for whatever reason, that notice goes through to the club secretary in the first instance, and you would need to make sure that the player and the team manager is aware of that, for example. When it comes to then meeting notes or just membership updates, so internal communications that perhaps the chairman wants to provide an update across the entire club, again, it would be the secretary that would be disseminating that and sending it out to all members. The final part of that then is that, again, as you're that primary point of contact, you may also end up being the person that is picking up or asked to receive complaints. Now, it's one of those unfortunate things in life that they will occasionally come up, whether that's around parents not feeling that their child's getting equal playing time, whether that's around just a dispute between two different players or coaches within the club and so forth. You'd probably be the one that would pick that up as that initial point of contact. So again, it's important that you know how to react to those kinds of incidents and who to pass it on to, who the appropriate person is within the club to pick that up in a bit more detail. Now, we do have a separate session that we'll be running in a couple of months' time, looking specifically around how to handle internal complaints. So if that is an area you've got concerns on, then please, by all means, let me know and I can point you in the right direction of a recording we've got of it, or let you know when we're going to be running it again so that you're able to join us and we can discuss it in a bit more detail. Going to move then on to that relationship with the league next. Now, the league is going to be one of your key partners in football. They are the ones ultimately that are helping you put on fixtures every single week, and they're that source of competition and organising fixtures on behalf of the league. Again, as the club secretary, chances are you will be that primary point of contact, regardless of whether you've got one team in the league or you've got 15 teams across 8 different age groups in one of our larger youth leagues. So that means you will get the updates on fixtures, registrations, league fines, which can crop up from anything from a manager failing to register enough players in time, or failing to submit a team sheet, or fielding ineligible players, anything like that. You'll also be the point of contact for results, which may include having to submit results back to the league on behalf of the club, and the good old AOB, so any other business that may come up on behalf of the league. Chances are they will come to you as that club secretary first and foremost. Part of your responsibility will then also likely be to attend the annual general meeting of the league. That is split into a couple of different areas, but there's generally a lot of that kind of annual formality around electing your league officers, approving finances and rule changes, accepting new members, and then crucially the other part of that is agreeing and approving the season setup for the coming season. Certainly in the more senior men's leagues and women's leagues, that's less of an issue because a lot of those structures are set according to promotion and relegation. But particularly when it comes to youth leagues and you're trying to gauge the respective strengths of different teams against each other, there can be quite a bit of wrangling going on as to who should be in what league and how the structure of the league is set up. So quite often leagues will want that to be a senior club official that will attend those meetings. Reason for that is that it's one vote per club. So you don't actually want your 15 different team managers across different age groups arguing amongst themselves as to how something should be run. But also, all too often, the team managers end up getting slightly focused on how their own team is going to do in the season, and they may not see that bigger picture and the importance for the league in terms of the season setup. Finally, you may be asked to attend other league meetings as needed throughout the course of the season, and that can be meetings required to just agree to changes in some of the constitution of divisions, particularly if they are finding in youth leagues that certain teams are running away with competitions and should be promoted, or it may be to perhaps vote on new officers or whether to allow a team to continue and so forth. We've also obviously had a spate of special general meetings as we went into lockdown to agree how to finish the 2019-20 season. So those are the kinds of things that may come up. I should point out with those larger leagues where you may have multiple teams entered that league membership is based on the club first, and then the club enters teams into the league. So your membership is based on the parent organisation effectively. And then that parent organisation enters however many teams are appropriate into different divisions or different age groups. That's why when it comes to some of these procedural things and elections and so forth, it is based around one vote per club rather than one vote per team. You look at some of our larger leagues such as East Berks Football Alliance, which is one of the biggest youth leagues in the country actually. They've got 950 odd teams that enter that every season. However, those 950 teams probably come from about 60 or 70 clubs. So that kind of shows how that relationship works really. Part of that league relationship then will be around those match day duties. And again, this may be something that you're asked to complete as a club secretary or may get delegated down to team managers depending on what's appropriate for your club really. There's no one size fits all. It will be based on your own individual requirements. However, this is a rule that is enshrined in both adult and youth leagues across the country. So there is a requirement that an officer of the home club must give notice of full particulars of the location and access to the ground, time of kickoff, and that should go to the match officials and somebody from the opposition club, and the league will say how many days in advance of a match that needs to be submitted. Now, if you don't provide that notice in sufficient time, that's another one of those things where you may end up picking up a minor fine from the league, which is done just to try to make sure that clubs are staying up on top of this administration, because it is crucial for the smooth running of the league, and to make sure that everybody's aware of what they're walking into, really, when they're going to a ground they may not have played at before. So part of that will also probably include confirmation of the type of pitch, what footwear should be worn, and what colour you wear as a club. Now, this is where it sounds like it's a lot of administration you're going to have to do each week, but actually, if you put together a good template with that basic information, actually all you're doing is sending out the same document week in, week out, just depending on the on the opposition for that particular week. So you're not having to rewrite it every 7 days. You just send out the same basic template that provides that kind of information, and you should be absolutely sorted. And this is something where Gary's actually kindly offered to provide us with a copy of the template he uses at Burnham for all of his pitch confirmation or fixture confirmations with opposition managers, and we're looking to try and adapt that and get that sent out to all clubs, just so you have it there as a reference. It is worth bearing in mind, though, different leagues will have different requirements. So although we'll provide a template, it's important to make sure you adapt that to the specific requirements of your league if there's something different they ask for. So other match day duties that you may well be asked to pick up, and again, depending on the size and structure of the club, this may get delegated, but as secretary, you have overall oversight of this. So that will include things like pitch hire and bookings, as I said, confirming the fixture details. In some leagues, particularly in the youth leagues, you may be asked to appoint the official for the game. After the fixture, you may be asked to report the results, and you might be asked to provide respect scores, just kind of grading the referee, the opposition, and their spectators just around their behaviour at the game. Sorry, I'm just looking through my notes on this one. It is important probably that some of this does sit within senior management within the club, and we've kind of stressed this actually when I've done similar induction sessions over the last few weeks with club treasurers and chairs, in that when some of these decisions are taken, or when some of these decisions are taken by team managers in particular, they're taken with the best interest of that team at heart. However, they may not always understand the financial implications. So the classic example is if a club decides to, or a team manager decides to create a new team because they've got, 10 or 20 players signed up for a 7-a-side league, and they decide actually we'll have 2 squads of 10 rather than 1 squad of 20. That decision actually has financial implications around purchasing kit, booking pitches, paying referees, and so forth. Certainly, when it comes to things like booking pitches for friendlies or training sessions, it's important that those kind of financial decisions are signed off or approved by someone within the senior club management, whether that is the chair, the treasurer, or the secretary, just because you'll be aware of the wider financial position of the club. Just picking up then again around that responsibility of appointing officials. As I said, some leagues may well ask the home club to appoint a referee. And for the most part, most grassroots leagues, so certainly youth leagues, Sunday leagues, and some of the non-step men's leagues, will probably ask both clubs to provide a club linesman for fixtures. And that's just because there aren't enough qualified officials basically to go around every single game we have every weekend, unfortunately. So you may well be asked to do that, but then if a league appointed referee, if you're in one of those leagues where they will do a central appointment process, if one of those league appointed referee does not show, it is down to both clubs then to agree a replacement. But the expectation is that the game will still go ahead. So it's important to be aware of those kinds of local league rules so that you're aware of what happens if. So what do I do if the league appointed referee doesn't show up, and so forth. Moving on then to the relationship with the county FA, it's relatively simple in the basis that as club secretary, you're our go-to person, basically. You are the person we will come to anytime we've got information about football we want to share with clubs, or anytime we want information from the club about something that you may be working on or that we may need to know about. So certainly you will hopefully already have started receiving messages from myself around affiliation, our weekly club and league updates from my colleague Steph Clark. So you'll get those kinds of communications throughout the season, depending on what is happening really at the County FA. So anytime there's a new grant initiative launched or new education sessions and so forth, we will send that out to yourselves as club secretaries. And the expectation from us is then that is passed on to whoever it may need to go on to. The reason that it all goes through the club secretary is that we've got 600 clubs, give or take, that affiliate to us on an annual basis. It's too difficult, frankly, for us to be able to track who is responsible for wildcats in each club, or who is responsible for discipline in each club, or for charter standards. Therefore, for us, it is standard practice then that it goes to the club secretary as that first point of contact, and you will know who is the relevant person within your club that it needs to then be sent on to. Equally, if there's any information that we need from the club, we will go to yourselves as club secretary to request that. And again, it may well be that it gets passed on from yourself to somebody else within the club to help us, but we will come to you first. So that may be if there's been disciplinary incidents that requires further investigation, we will come to you and ask you to start collecting statements on behalf of the club, but you may well decide to then forward that on to the team manager, let's say, to kind of handle it internally. Equally, if we receive notice that a DBS has expired, we'll come to yourself or the club welfare officer as a reminder that needs to get renewed. And then if there's a complaint that gets lodged with us at the county, we'll talk to yourselves first as club secretaries to find out exactly what may well have happened the first time, or what investigation or steps the club has taken to address it. Before I jump into the dive headfirst into the whole game system, was there anything, Gary, you just wanted to say around either the relationship with the league or the relationship with the county?
Yeah, I'll say a couple of things. Yeah, the relationship has to be very good, and I treat the county FA and the league, they're your family. If that's quite a strong word, but the main thing that I deal with, I've operated at steps 3, 4, 5, and 6 with Burnham, and obviously I run the East Berkshire League as well. But as I said, the communication is key. The main thing is that, if you see a notification from either full-time, whole game system, county FA, once you see it, you deal with it, you read it, then obviously you then send it out, communicate to your club members, then you action. So it's basically you read, communicate, action. But it's very important that you get that relationship with the county FA and the league, because it's so much easier when you do that, I tell you. I mean, as I said, I started at step 3, and I've come down the leagues with 3 and 4 with some relegations and bits and pieces. But I've 2 years at step 3 and the rest at 4, 5 and 6, and currently at 5. So I've seen most things, but the most important thing of that journey for me was the communication with the league and the communication with the county FA. So important.
Yeah, and I definitely back that up. I mean, we do take pride at the county in terms of the relationship we have with the clubs. Like I said, we may have 600 odd clubs, but just from driving around the county on a personal basis, you start seeing signposts, and in my head, as soon as I see the signpost for one of the towns or even one of the smaller villages in Berks or Bucks, my mind immediately completes the name of the football club. And I said I've probably got about 50% success rate that I can then tell you the name of the secretary. And that's just because of those close relationships we have and the amount of communication and we have with the clubs to try and help you out on any of the issues that may crop up throughout the season. Right, I'm going to come on now to dive, as I said, headfirst into whole game system and just try and show you some of the functions that you're going to need to be aware of and some of the tips and tricks, hopefully, to make your lives easier in administering the club. Now, with any luck, I just do that, and you should now be able to see the whole game system. Gary, can you just let me know that it's now whole game showing the dashboard?
It is, yes. It is,
so,
yes.
What I've got up is, this will be the first thing you'll see when you log into the whole game system, and it is your individual dashboard. So you can see across the top, I've got 4 different roles with 4 different clubs and leagues. And only when you click on one of those will you go into that that organization page. However, across on your main personal dashboard, you will see any notifications you have that are listed as unread across all the organizations you've got a formal role with. So these are different notifications for the different organizations that we've set up as demo organizations to help us run these demonstrations. So if I click on the notifications from 24th of July, you'll see that it's telling me that different disciplinary cases have been added and different invoices have been added. Now, if you want to get rid of one of these, all you have to do is click into it and then click mark as read, and it will remove it from that active dashboard. And you can see that the number in red is gradually going down, and they're losing the little red icon to say that that is unread. If you ever want to go back to and get access to the red messages, all you do is click on all, and that will take you to kind of your history of different notifications. You can see all the ones going back earlier in July when we did a similar session to this. As I said, if you are do have other roles with different organizations, you'll see those will still come there. So for example, show for the demo league that our league sanction rules have been accepted. To go into the club, just click on the club across the top here. I'm going into BBFA Demo Club. And this will be your main club dashboard then, which will give you all of the a live overview and snapshot of the status of the club. So it just gives you your basic details, charter standard status, contact details, and so forth. Again, if you have unread notifications specifically relating to that club, it will flag it across the top. And actually, if you scroll down to the bottom, it will show you those unread notifications as well. And this is the one that I left unread from that main dashboard. And again, same thing, you can update it and mark them as read from within the main dashboard. You'll also see here, it will tell you any outstanding fines you have left to pay. If you are also the treasurer, you should then have access to pay the invoices from this main dashboard as well. All I've done is I've stripped it back so it only shows the club secretary dashboard. The main page then you're going to need to be using throughout the course of the season is probably going to be the discipline tab. Particularly adult teams, by the nature of the football, they're slightly more competitive. They're more likely to pick up cautions and red cards throughout the course of the season. So if you click onto discipline, it gives you an overview of offences for your first team and then your non-first team across the course of the season so far. And it will show you any unacknowledged cases in the main dashboard here. So you can see that BBFA demo player has picked up a caution and then has also picked up a straight red card in a match on the 19th of July. This gives you the overview here. If you do want to find out more information about the offence, you click on the case ID number and that will take you into the case page. And on here, it gives you a bit more detail. So it gives me detail about the player, confirms their date of birth, confirms the offence, the date, when I need to have acknowledged the case by, how much is outstanding on it, and what suspension they have, and if any suspension matches have been created for that suspension. To acknowledge, when you're logged in on a non-demo club, you'll see that this button here where it says acknowledge will be blue. In order to acknowledge a case, we need to have the player's date of birth and their address. 90% of our leagues are now using whole game system for managing player registrations. So pretty much every player, that should not be an issue. Those details should already be on the system and you can just click acknowledge. Now, it is important that you do go through and acknowledge cases as soon as you pick them up. You have 7 days to acknowledge a red card from the date the challenge is issued and 14 days to acknowledge a yellow card from the date it's issued. If you miss that deadline, you will pick up a 10% late fee. So your what will be a £12 caution from next season forward will then pick up a £3, yeah, sorry, it's a 25% late fee. So yeah, your £12 caution will suddenly cost you £15. If you've got a £40 red card like this one and you miss that 7-day acknowledgement period actually suddenly that red card's going to cost you an extra tenner. So it is important to stay on top of that process. Equally, if you go into the, I'll just show you what a caution looks like, just so you can see as well. And in this case page as well, you will be able to make payments. Again, just can't do it on this because it's a demonstration club. If you do need to update any of the player details, you can just click on that player's name and it pulls up their details. Just click update and it will let you edit their address as necessary. It won't let you update their date of birth or their name. So if any of those details are wrong, please let us know at the County FA and we will update those for you. If you do click on this player, it also pulls up their individual offence history. So you've got everything at your fingertips for that. If you have had a player sent off and you've seen that for this red card, he had a 3-match suspension, you add the matches that are being served in that suspension via the matches tab. And that is a really easy process. You just come here, click on the blue new match at the top, select the dates. I'm going to put this as because it's Sunday, so the 2nd of August. Asks you then just to effectively complete the fixture details, whether it's league, whether it's a cup competition, an FA competition, what the league was, who the opposition was. And once all that information is in there, you click create and it will automatically add the game. If you click down here, it will show that it's already been applied to that player's suspension. A player will show as suspended on the whole game system until the relevant number of matches have been added. So if he's picked up a 1-game ban, has served it, but you haven't added the game in this process, then he will still flag up in your system as being suspended a month, 2 months, 3 months later, however long it may be. So that is the basic discipline side of things. The other aspects I wanted to show you then were give you the safeguarding dashboard. So this will show everybody that is listed in a club or a team official role within the club and give you an overview of their safeguarding qualifications so that you know status of any DBS applications and whether they are allowed to be in a position of responsibility for youth teams, and then a record of any of the education courses that they've taken, so that if, for example, let's see what I've got here. So let's say John Wood, my colleague, his emergency aid qualification is nearly 3 years old, so it's listed as amber and expiring soon. So it will show you as a quick and easy overview that actually I need to get John booked up on another emergency aid course as soon as possible. So it's really visual, really great dashboard just to see that kind of key information at a one-stop shop. The other way you can see this, and what we would recommend you doing once you've completed the affiliation process and ahead of the league season starting, is if you go into team officials, it kind of gives you the same information but broken down according to role. So safeguarding gives you by individual, this gives you by role, so you get multiple the same individual coming up multiple times if they've got multiple roles. However, what you can do is download a qualification report that will then show you all of the different officials, every single role they're appointed to, and show you all of their qualifications. And that is a great tool to use at the beginning of the season so that you can map out over the next 6, 7, 8 months who needs what qualifications and when. And if you do have a bulk of coaches that need to, let's say, renew their emergency aid course or need to complete a safeguarding children workshop, you know that actually you could probably organise a standalone course and get that organised as soon as possible. So again, really useful tool that I recommend you look into. If you want to add an official then through the course of the season, let's say because new coach has joined, you want to assign them to a team, you just click on the blue button here, and if you know the individual's fan, their FA number, you can type it in here. If not, you can search by details. So for example, if I go should now, with any luck, I will show up and I can assign myself as update the records to show that I am now manager of BBFA Reds or something like that. Yeah, BBFA Demo Club Reds. I'm the manager. Starting from 1st of July. Click to say that that's the individual you want to appoint and click OK. And with any luck, I will now appear in that list somewhere. Yeah, there we go, manager of BBFA Club Demo, BBFA Demo Club Reds. The club official tab allows you to do the same thing with those parent club roles, so secretary, treasurer, chair, welfare officer, and so forth. This is also where you can add people as player registration officers. So if you are a larger club and you want to delegate some of that responsibility to age group coordinators, so that rather than registering 600 players yourself, 6 of you are registering 100 players, you can add an official as a player registration officer. So again, I'm just going to quickly put myself in that role. Player registration officer, and I'll put the start date again, 1st of January, 1st of July. Now, if you do want to give someone that responsibility and that authority to sign players at the start of the season, but actually you don't want them to be able to add players throughout the rest of the season and have access to all of that personal data, because there is a fair amount of personal data on the system, and you want to kind of withdraw that access at any stage, you just come back onto this club officials page and click on the role. You click on the edit button on the far right here, and it'll ask you to enter a date that role expires. If you click today's date, you'll see that I have, hopefully, when it updates, been removed from that role. Yep, so it's disappeared and I would no longer have access to player registrations. Now, it's a slightly different process for the key officials. So every club must have a named chairperson, secretary and treasurer, and every youth club must have a named welfare officer. Because you must always have a named individual in that role, what you can't do is remove someone from that role. So if you look, if I go over to this cross over here, it comes up with sort of a no entry sign and says key officials cannot be deleted, use add official to replace them. So if I want to take Liz out as treasurer and put myself in that role, have control of all the money, just go through that add officials role, and in these key roles up here, select treasurer, select today's date, click OK. An error has occurred. Excellent. Let me see if I backdate it by day, that will help. Nope. That should work. Do love it when the whole game does this, and it doesn't. But in theory, that is how you would have to replace one of those key officials. If you ever do get into a position like that, where suddenly an error comes up and it's preventing you from adding an individual as a club official, adding a player for whatever reason, just please contact us, drop us an email at County FA, and because we have access through the whole back end of whole game system as a CRM process, we have basically a lot more authority and ability to replace individuals in those roles, and it's a 30-second job for us, so we can get that put through for you as quickly as possible. So those were the functions I wanted to show you in the whole game system. So I'm just going to drop back to the presentation now. And before closing up, I just wanted to kind of highlight again some of that support that we look to offer here at the County FA. And it's more around perhaps the informal support that we offer. So as I mentioned earlier, we have a wide range of online resources available, one-page reference guides, a full 90-odd page club administration manual, and a wealth of resources on our website. So definitely recommend you take a look there if possible. That can be found at the leagues, and if you go across our website, across the top to the leagues and clubs, and then club management, we have what we call the football services guides. So they will take you through some of those things like disciplinary cases, what the timeframes are, how to acknowledge a case, how to make payments, and so forth. We then try and we will try and run regular CPD and information sessions throughout the season. As I said, we do monthly governance webinars where we pick one of those topics and explore it in more detail. But then once lockdown's over, we run regular courses, workshops and meetings, either centrally from our offices in Abingdon. Increasingly, we're going to run them online like this, or we will come out across the county and work in partnership with specific leagues if there is an area that they've highlighted they would like some county FA support on. We are looking to put together a full calendar for the 2021 season, which will hopefully be released in the next few weeks, so you will have access to that and kind of what different levels of support we're offering across different roles. Finally, we do pride ourselves on our customer support and customer service here at Berks and Bucks. So we have internal targets to respond to over 90% of queries within 2 working days and try to resolve that issue within 4 working days. But equally, we're conscious that some of these queries that may come up are very time sensitive. So if you think of player registration, we know that every year between about August and October, clubs are looking to register players as quickly as possible. It may well be that leagues have a deadline. The player needs to be registered on the whole game system by midday the day before the fixture, so midday on a Friday. So we know that if a club contacts us on a Thursday night needing us to add a player for them because they picked up an error message for whatever reason, we will prioritize that, and we will try and actually turn those player registration queries around probably in about half an hour and make sure that we are not preventing you from being able to play football or manage the club properly because of our slowness. So we will definitely prioritize those different areas of the work at different times of the season. That is it in terms of the presentation. So I'm going to throw it open as a general Q&A. You've got myself and you've got Gary here. If there's any burning questions or there is something you would like support on, as I mentioned, by all means, please unmute yourselves. You're welcome to drop a message in the chat, or you're welcome to do the electronic raised hand. Equally, if there aren't any questions, and you did want to head off now, thank you very much for joining us this evening. I hope you found it useful. I hope it's given you a bit of extra understanding around what the role that you've just taken on actually entails. Hope it hasn't scared you away, but hopefully it has kind of given you some tips and support to see how best to manage your club going forward. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for stepping up and taking on the roles, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.